Welcome. Pierre and Trudeau are going toe to toe when this happens. Pierre asks for an answer from the chair of the Agriculture Committee directly. No problem, right? Watch as the Trudeau silences his own MP.
Carbon tax hike of 23% will hit Nova Scotians especially hard. The Prime Minister's tax will cost $1,500 for the average Nova Scotia family, far more than they get back in rebates. That's why Nova Scotia's Assembly passed a unanimous motion with all three parties supporting it, calling for federal MPs from that province to vote with Conservatives to spike the hike. One of those MPs is from King's Hants, the chair of the Agriculture Committee, which has been studying the carbon tax pain for farmers. So the question is for the chair of the Agriculture Committee, will he vote with us to spike the hike?
Something really interesting happens next. Watch as the Liberals scurry to prevent this minister from speaking. Is Trudeau even in control of his party or our government? I'll let you be the judge.
So, colleagues, of course, questions can be asked of the government regarding administrative issues of the government, and of course to committee chairs. It's important for Canadians to understand, though, that when questions are asked of committee chairs, it has to be regarding stuff that has committee business. That's before the committee right now, and so in consultation, we realize that isn't the issue that is here before. So I see that the honourable Minister for Housing is rising on his feet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And look, what the honourable member is actually suggesting is false. We have real-world data to...
Not gonna lie, in my opinion, I think this guy likes his snow. And I don't mean the stuff out of the sky. I think Trudeau could say pay him in dime bags instead of dollars.
Actually applies. Families receive hundreds of dollars more each year than they pay in fuel charges. The Conservatives pretend to care about affordability, yet they oppose measures to put more money in the pockets of families. They pretend to care about affordability, but they oppose measures that protect seniors' pensions. They pretend to care about affordability, but they vote against measures to remove the interest on Canada's student loans. Mr. Speaker, we will do everything we can to make life more affordable, including putting more money in the pockets of families while we fight climate change at the same time.
Just one question. Is this guy a mime trying to find his way out of a box?
All that parliamentary censorship proves everything you need to know about this and everything else in this government. I asked a question of the member for King's Hants, the chair of the Agriculture Committee, who's now studying the painful impacts of the carbon tax, and the front bench here shut him down, told him to sit down and shut up because they had a better mouthpiece for the PMO who would stand and speak in his stead. Mr. Speaker, the question is for the member for King's Hants, the chair of the Agriculture Committee. His committee studying how the carbon tax hurts farmers. Will he vote to spike the hike?
Will Trudeau or his handlers allow this man to talk for his own constituents? What do you think?
If the honourable member has qualms about the member for King's Hants, I can reassure him he is a champion for his community. He launched a petition recently to stand up to the Conservative government in Nova Scotia for changes to the agricultural sector in his community. Every time the Conservatives ask a question about its environment, it's to find out ways that they can do less. The member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke has suggested flooding in the Ottawa River was a result of regulations that were not in place. The member from Caribou, Prince George, has suggested climate change is not a result of industrial pollution, but of more body heat from a growing population. The member from Red Deer Lacombe visited school kids to say carbon dioxide was plant food. Mr. Speaker, this...
Wait. Since when do plants not absorb carbon dioxide? Sean Fraser, can I see your science on this? You seem very wrong.
He's absolutely right. It is a joke, an April Fool's joke, and the joke is on Canadian taxpayers, especially Nova Scotians, who will have to pay $1,500 in higher carbon taxes after that hike goes ahead. He says that the member for King's Hants is a champion who can't even speak, who's silenced by his own MPs. Will the member...
And of course, the Liberals would have to clap for that, because they are the virtue signaling masters. clapping for the very minister that they are preventing from talking for his own constituents.
Will the censored champion break his silence and tell us, will he vote for his constituents to spike the hike, or will he rip them off on April Fool's Day?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Speaker, the Conservatives want to peddle false information to trick Canadians into voting for them. The reality, proven not by projections, but by real-world data, is that people who live in my province receive more money every year from the rebates that they receive than the fuel charge that they pay. Everything the Conservatives do.
Order. The Honourable Minister has 15 seconds left on the clock.
Mr. Speaker, at every instance the Conservatives have an opportunity to speak in House, they do one of two things: advocate to do less on the environment or to take money from families in my community. I will support neither. We will do whatever we can to put more money in the pockets of families and do the right thing for future generations.
Do they have some other information that we don't have that shows the good side of the carbon tax that they just don't want to release to us because it's just too good for some reason? It makes no sense, but trying to get in the liberal mind here. I'm not sure how that works.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the question was for the silent member from King's Hants. He is asked to explain how he's voting for a carbon tax of $1,500 per family that only pays back $963 in rebates. I asked him specifically to stand and answer, but he's been shut down and shut up by his masters in the PMO. So once again, will the chair of the Agriculture Committee and member for King's Hants stand in today and tell us whether he will vote to spike the hike or raise the tax?
Well, we all know that he's not going to be allowed to answer that question because, well, Trudeau does not want that to happen. We're not really sure why he doesn't want his own party to speak the truth, but maybe one day we'll find that out.
Mr. Speaker, the people of King's Hants, Nova Scotia, are learning they don't have a voice in Parliament because he has been silenced. The Prime Minister is terrified that he might stand up and get off script. He knows that the unanimous will of the Nova Scotia legislature, Liberals, Conservatives, and New Democrats, was passed in a motion calling for all of that province's MPs to vote against the hike. So will the member for King's Hants, who's the chair of the Agriculture Committee, stand up for farmers in his riding and vote with us to spike the hike? Yes or no?
Trudeau does not allow any of his ministers to go off script, or he will simply lose what's left of his voters, and they are dwindling fast. Now, Freeland comes in for damage control as Trudeau ran away from work like he suddenly found a positive COVID test on the floor.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member for King's Hants stands up for farmers, stands up for his constituents, stands up for the people of Nova Scotia, and stands up for the people of Canada every single day. On this side of the House, we are incredibly proud to have him as our colleague. And one thing that he knows is the people of King's Hants do not need cuts, and that is all the Conservatives have to offer them or any single Canadian.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the member for King's Hants is in the Witness Protection Program today. He can't possibly stand up when his whip waves for him to sit down. which is exactly what happened a moment ago when I asked him a legitimate question as chair of the Agriculture Committee, a committee that's studying the devastating impact of the carbon tax on farmers in his riding and across the country. So for a sixth time, will he come out of the witness protection program and announce whether he will vote for our motion despite the hike?
Wow, Trudeau has forced one of his own MPs into witness protection. That's pretty crazy. And I'm sure completely normal in a democracy if you were to ask, Trudeau.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives love to talk Canada down. They traffic in fear and falsehood. But on this side of the House, we believe in Canada and we believe in Canadians. And that's why I am so glad to share some good news with the members of this House. And that is the inflation number for February, which came out this morning, 2.8% below expectations within the Bank of Canada's target rate. That is the second month in a row. In January, it was 2.9. Within the target, our plan is working, Mr. Speaker.
Do you think any minister of Trudeau's party can make public statements against Trudeau? Or do you think he has some form of legal document, like an NDA, preventing his ministers from speaking publicly? What do you think? He certainly doesn't want them to speak in the House of Commons because they have privileges there. And they can say whatever they want, so he prevents that. But publicly, an NDA probably would prevent that. A lot of NDAs can be broken though, so interesting question. Do you support this new speaker also, Greg Fergus? Or did you like Anthony Rota before, Trudeau made him invite his good old friend? Let me know in the comments. Also subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. You've been served.